See, it's time for you to change your oil. This is how you do it. First, you have to pop the hood. Look for the lever. Then you have to get the latch in the front. You will find it through the grill. Push it up. Oh, you need 2 hands to do it. Push up on the lever like this. The rod is usually in the front like this. You pick it up and you put it in the hole like that. And the hood stays up. You will need cardboard, a bucket, a funnel, a piece of hose, 5 quarts of oil, maybe 6, a new oil filter, some paper towels. You will also need an oil filter wrench, and you will need a wrench to get the drain bolt on the bottom of the oil pan. What's special about changing your own oil is that you can do it without spilling a single drop of oil on the floor or on the car. And they will never do that at Jiffy Lube. Okay, put your oil bucket on the cardboard and push it all underneath there. Then climb under and see what size wrench you need on the bottom of the oil pan. Here's the oil pan. It's right here. This is the oil pan, and here's the drain bolt. That looks like a 14 or 15 millimeter bolt. First thing you do is take the drain plug out of the oil pan and let it drain while you do everything else. If you have a truck, then you might not need to put the whole car up on jack stands to get underneath the car. And if it's pretty tight, then you might need to use your right hand instead of your left hand. Remember, counterclockwise loosens and clockwise tightens. I know you grew up without analog clocks, but you'll just have to remember that way. So we push, but don't push too hard because you could slip and smash your hand on something. So push, control, push, and open it. Before you open it more, put the drain bucket under there, and then take it out so it drains in the drain bucket. Don't drop the bolt in the drain bucket, Lucy. Push up on it until it's out all the way, and then you got it out. And then you can wipe your hand off and wipe the bolt off. Oops, I got 1 drop of oil on the ground. Then while the oil is draining, you do everything else. Just let it drain there. In this Toyota, the oil filter is on the top. Some cars, the oil filter is down underneath the car. To get it off, you use an oil filter wrench. You just grab it. When you take it off, the oil dumps out and dumps into this little passageway. And on the bottom there is a plug. So we're going to use this piece of hose to catch the oil so that it doesn't fill up inside here and then make a mess. And we will drain the oil through the hose down into the bucket. It's a little rubber plug, and you pull it off without dropping it. See, and it has oil in it. Messy. Put it in the oil bucket. All right. And get your hose. Put the hose on there where that plug came off. See that? You can see the hose, and you can run the hose down into the drain bucket. Okay. We need something to hold that there. It's not long enough. And the wrench will hold it there so that it doesn't go curling up. And then you check again, since you've been tugging on the hose, check it again. Make sure it didn't come off. Where is it? It didn't come off the plug. It didn't. Use your oil filter wrench. And grab onto that and turn it counterclockwise. And once you turn it a little bit with the wrench, then you can grab it with your hand. And then it'll come out. And see, the oil is draining. And it's coming out here. And it's filling up that little place. And it's going into our bucket. And you take it all the way off. And try not to spill it. So hold it like this. Dump the oil into the oil drain bucket. I put it back in the container. And then it goes into the landfill. That's the spot where your oil filter goes. It's pretty oily. We want to clean off the dirt that's around there. So get your paper towel and clean it off so dirt doesn't get into your engine. And so maybe you can see if something is leaking later. You're done. When your towel is still clean, then you have to put the new oil filter on. You need to wipe a ring of oil around the rim of the oil filter. And the new oil has a seal. Poke the seal, Lucy. All right. Don't drop the metal foil into the oil because you don't want to pour it in your car. Usually I'm a little more careful. And then reach your finger in there. Don't be afraid. And get a little oil on it. And wipe it around the ring. This rubber ring has to be a little wet with oil. It's hard to do with one hand because it spins around. And you wipe the oil ring around here so that when you screw it screws on smoothly and the rubber doesn't get all caught up on the metal and fall out of there. So it goes on lubricated. And you can put some in the threads too. If this didn't go on upside down, if this went on like a Ford and just screwed on up like this, we would fill the oil filter up with oil so that it was primed with oil when the car went to go start. It wouldn't start dry. But this one goes on upside down, so we can't put oil in it before we put it on. It's okay. Put it on there straight and then just start spinning it. If it spins on nicely, then it's not cross-threaded. So you put it on hand tight, you turn it so it's pretty much hand tight, and then no more than a half a turn after that. But it should be really snug, it shouldn't leak. Okay, then get your little rubber plug. Get ready to pull this off and catch any oil dripping out of there. Shouldn't be too much left with the paper towel. And then put that plug back on there. And get that plug and put the plug back on. Did you hear that? That's a good sound. That means you did it. Then pull the hose out without having it fall into your oil bucket and without making a mess. All right. There, we got it all out. And then clean it off with paper towels. No matter how well you wipe it off, there's still going to be oil inside. So, Grendel, come here. Put it in a plastic bag for next time. It's time to put the plug back in. Just put it in quickly and start turning it clockwise again. And then when you get it hand tight, the oil will stop dripping, and then you can get your paper towel again and wipe all that oil off there. And get your wrench. This one's 14 millimeter. And then tighten it. But remember, some of these oil pans have aluminum, made of aluminum. This one looks like steel, but there might be aluminum inside the bolt. Anyway, the sheet metal on these is very thin, so don't tighten it too much. Tightening it hard, you would hold it from the end of the wrench, but to make sure you don't tighten it too much, hold it closer to the middle of the wrench. That'll prevent you from over tightening it. Just get it pretty tight so it doesn't leak. And that's about it. And we can wipe it one more time. And if you wipe it, then you can see if it ever starts dripping, you can see if it's leaking. If you just leave a mess on there, then you'll never know if it's leaking or not. Okay, now you're to the point where you have drained the oil, you've put the drain plug back in, you've tightened the drain plug, you've taken the oil filter off, you've put a new oil filter on, you wiped off the dripping oil. And now all you have to do is put oil back in the car. So you find where the oil goes. That's usually this plug right here. It always says oil, SAE 5W30 oil. If you have an automatic transmission, then there may be another tube in here for filling transmission fluid, but you should have a stick shift. And then there's only oil. So. And then if you have a funnel, you can put the funnel in there. If you don't have a funnel, then you put 2 fingers over this, and then you turn it upside down and aim it into the hole, and then you pull your fingers away. It's a little messy, but it works if you don't have a funnel. A truck usually takes 5 or 6 quarts of oil, and so we're just going to pour it in here. Don't overfill the funnel. If we had a quart of oil instead of a 5-quart bucket, then we would just leave the quart upside down inside the funnel and walk away and go wipe some stuff off. But this won't stay if I do that. Oh, look, you can get it to stay there. But if it falls down, it's going to spill oil and make a mess. So don't let it fall down. You need to check your oil too when you're done filling it up. I know we just filled it with 5 quarts, and so I know how much is in there. But there's a dipstick. It usually has a ring, and you just pull the ring out, and the end of the stick is wet from the oil, and you look at it to see if the oil is in the right spot. On the stick, the oil is supposed to be up in between those 2 marks, and if it's up at the top mark, then that is where it should be. When you have been driving the car, the oil splashes around inside that tube, and so the mark can be up a lot higher, and that's why you wipe it off before you check it. So it's clean, and then you put it back down into the hole. With one hand is harder. And you push it all the way down. It goes down into the oil pan where all the oil is collecting, and you pull it out and read it. And sometimes there'll be a little bit of wet, but you can see that it's up around the 2 marks. And when we start the car, it's going to get a little lower because there's going to be oil that will fill up into the oil filter, maybe half a quart. So it'll be a little lower than what we see right now after we start the car. So sometimes you can add a little bit more oil to the car after you're done starting it and change the oil if you've changed the filter too. If you're only changing the oil and not the filter, then you don't add that extra little bit. And you're going to take the old oil and you're going to fill it in here to bring it for recycling. The way you do that is put some cardboard down by a wall, oil bottle, and put it there. And then pour that in there without spilling it, which I can't do with one hand, so I'll just pause. Then you can get this to go totally upside down inside that bucket, inside the bottle. And the reason why I said to put it next to a wall is so that you can just lean this up against there and leave it there and let it drain. Normally you could just leave that like that for a day, but if you have dogs, Grendel will come along and knock it all over and you'll have oil everywhere. So don't do that if you have Grendel. Last, you need to make sure that you've got as much oil in the bucket as you poured in. If you don't fill this bucket with the oil that comes out of the car, then your car's burning oil. That's no good. So let's look and see how much we have without spilling it. And with one hand too. Yeah. Can you see that it's almost up to the rim? And don't lose the top to the oil bottle. You will need it later. Put them together so you can find it easily. And while you've been messing with the oil drain pan, your funnel has been draining out into here. So then you can get ready to wipe it clean. Take it out. After you've cleaned out your funnel with a paper towel, put it in here. Don't forget to put the top back on your oil. And that just goes on hand tight. The last thing you do is start the car and make sure that none of the indicator lights are messed up. And then if you run the car for a little bit, you go back outside and check to make sure there are no leaks. Also on the Toyotas, there's a maintenance light that comes on, probably on other cars too. And this is how you reset it so that the maintenance light goes off. Okay, see this little maintenance required? That is what happens every 5,000 miles or so. And you're looking for any indicators that say there's no oil pressure or something like that, and none of those, so that's good. So we turn the car off. I think in order to reset it, first you have to put the odometer back to the regular odometer. Then you turn the key off, you pull it out, and then you put it in and turn it on while holding this button right there. There. Now it's reset. See, no more maintenance light. There, all the lights are working because they're not on. The air filter is held onto the manifold on new cars right here at the top, and it usually has clips. You just unsnap them like this, and you unhook them like that, and this thing comes loose. And your air filter is in there, the old one. So look and see how it's in there, and look and see how the new one is, and then make the new one look like the old one. So when you take it out, you don't have to think. The new one just goes in just the way the old one was, and I have to do this with one hand. A lot harder with one hand. See, like that. And then you gotta get it hooked back on there. Look at the back, make sure it's hooked in. Look at the front, make sure it gets in there too. Don't get the clip caught in there. Take the clip out. Oops, this clip is stuck in there. That clip is stuck in there. One-handed maintenance is not easy. Okay, that goes like that. It goes like that, and it should almost close without the clips. And then you put the clips on. That's one. That's two. There. You just saved $50 changing your air filter by yourself. Throw it in the garbage can. Don't forget to put your tools away when you're done with them. All done.